Welcome to the Dudes of Thread podcast. The Dudes of Thread podcast is here to open your mind when it comes to specialty embroidery, applique, patchwork, and multimedia. From ideation to design to sourcing, we want to help you help your customers elevate their merchandise.
We've done the research, made the mistakes, and are excited to share this nerdy fashion content. Join us as we decorate our way to creativity, one stitch at a time.
Welcome back to the Dudes of Thread podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremy Picker.
And I'm Joe Kramar.
And we are the Dudes of Thread. We are lovers of embroidery, applique. Joe's a digitizer, and we are excited to help you level up your embroidery that you're offering your customers and to make you some more money.
Absolutely. How's the week going so far, Jeremy? How is everything going on your end?
Man, client work makes things go like a blur. It's already Friday, and I feel like the last podcast we just did is we were recording that, and it's already a week later. So it's been good. Things are picking back up after a slower January, but we're excited to be able to break away on a Friday afternoon and share our love of embroidery and applique and all things merch.
Yeah, absolutely. I really loved how the amount of support that we've been getting, especially from not just the last podcast, but even since the very first one, because this is episode 3 now. And I just feel it's to take a moment. I just wanted to let everybody out there know who's taken the moment to reach out and to write and to let us know that this is resonating with them and they have a lot of takeaways. Obviously, without you guys, this couldn't happen, so thank you so much. If you're joining us for the first time, to summarize, we're basically going to elevate the thoughts and the concepts of decorating apparel, specifically in the area of stitching and thread. So it's going to be embroidery and any kind of embellishments that involves embroidery and sewing. And so welcome to our show, and we really hope that you find it comfortable here.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, we want to bridge that gap between the client and the customer and manufacturing, because a lot of times that's disconnected. So we want to bring a little bit of technical, but really we want to help people get those ideas, different ideas for customers that they might be used to left chest embroidery. We want to show what's out there in the world of embroidery, that it's not created equal. When people think about it, they think of that left chest, corporate embroidery, shiny, tech bro polo, and there's so much more that can hit any style, no matter who your client is. And we talk about it on a daily basis, but we thought it would be great to share our love with it for others, because I really think that there's people in our industry that are selling so much embroidery, and they just need a little bit of direction and ideas to help their customers just really improve.
Yeah, those are some great points in there. We spent the last episode, I think this is going to carry on throughout the theme of this podcast in general, but we spent some time the last episode talking about, breaking some of those rules of traditional embroidery. And it's not because traditional embroidery, there's anything bad with it. I just think that as I've started to teach the ways that high-end retail does embroidery, especially direct embroidery, they use a lot more vintage threads, a lot more vintage techniques. And I think the general consensus, the rule of thumb here is to try to decorate the garment, but like do the least amount of touching to that garment that you possibly can. Meaning that the shapes are simpler with some of these looks that we're talking about. The embroidery is actually a bit more sparse, so you don't have a super dense file that's potentially going to cause the fabric to start to turn to bacon or to potato chip, I've heard it also called, where it starts to really make some, the too many penetrations, and you really just completely change the physical properties of that garment. So I think it's worth mentioning here on the cast that we're going to probably run over some pieces that Jeremy and I have been wanting to feature on on this show and maybe kind of go through some of the technical aspects of it, as well as the trending aspects of it and how they're relevant to leveling up your embroidery.
And one thing to add on that, we had a recent downfall. Joe is an expert digitizer and has been doing embroidery, but we outsource a lot of most of our embroidery. And so we just dealt with a recent project of a striped polo. And because we had to make it dense enough to get the logo nice and clean, it looked nice going up to the logo, and then the stripes got stretched out. And when the stitches kind of held it in place, you just you started seeing those stripes bend. And so we totally had to scrap that project, and the client moved to a heat transfer just because the optical illusion or maybe not even optical, it had a bend in it. The customer wouldn't approve it. So while we know a lot about it, it's still, every garment is different, and we want to find these things that make it a little easier to predict in manufacturing, because a lot of people default to heat transfers or certain types of decorations because it's the easy route, not necessarily the best route for the end wearer. So we are human, and we will go over, things that we come across that didn't go so well, so you can relate as well to our losses.
Yeah, that's one of the things too, especially as a digitizer. It's a great example that you brought up, and we'll go ahead and show this image so you guys can see what we're talking about. But basically what's happening is, no matter what, in any scenario, it doesn't matter the backing you're using, it doesn't matter the threads you're using, it doesn't really matter to some degree the density, etc., the needles, the fabric is going to distort 100% of the time. Is it going to distort so much that you can't use it? Not necessarily, but in this case, I think this is like our third strike on this one file, and this is also third strike, meaning we took a successful file that we've been sewing for, thousands and thousands of garments. We overlaid it. We made sure that this was the best one. This was at least the best intelligent decision that I could make. Getting it on the press, didn't like it, revised it twice. And I just got to a point where I was like, this is going to be the best that it's going to be, because if I pull any stitches out, you're going to see through them. And if I pull too many out, although the distortions will be less, there's no way to get rid of the distortions like 100%. So yeah. I did the next best thing that I could think of, and I went ahead and texted, well, I don't know, 2 or 3 other guys, and they're just like, we've never found a way to fix this. And I'm just like, okay, well,
we feel better now that it's not us.
Yeah, just making sure that
sometimes it is, but this time, it was just the wrong type of embroidery on the wrong garment. But
right. So
sometimes you never know. You can't predict that.
Right. And if there's any brokers out there that are try not to yell at your vendor until you get all the facts, because they may be doing absolutely everything that they can do to make it work, and it's just not working out, So that was a good example of some learnings, right, for us.
Yeah, and to go into some market research. So we have a private message group in Instagram, and then we also use Slack. But we're constantly just sharing new ideas, and new ideas meaning picking up something from what we're seeing in the marketplace. And it really just adds to our library of what is possible. That way, when we have a certain client project, we can pull from that archive and use that as inspiration to, change something new in their graphics or their design. But for the first one, the shirt is behind me. And if any of you have seen any of my content, I'm in love with Abercrombie. Vintage Abercrombie, not current Abercrombie, vintage Abercrombie. As you know, Joe used to work there, and he worked in the R&D department and was a digitizer and helped them elevate a lot of these techniques. The start of my career, I worked in the factory that would actually do a lot of the sampling for Joe's department. So it's kind of full circle, but I've been collecting a lot of these old pieces from eBay, hoping that they would fit me, but my XL body is not XL Abercrombie in most garments, so they end up being some good market research. So I pulled this one up because it's a t-shirt. It's a lightweight t-shirt, but there's so much going on here that I wanted to share it and have us talk
Wonderful.
about
Yeah,
it.
this is a really, really nice piece. First and foremost, I definitely want to address the multi-label or multi-layered label there in the background, just because although it's completely unnecessary, it really does add a really nice, luxurious feel to the overall piece itself. Can you? I don't know if is it like it's probably just a twill, a printed twill, or it could be a woven. But usually they would print it because it would keep it soft.
That top one is a woven.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bottom one, some of them do have prints on it, but this one, it's literally just like a frame,
right,
around a picture.
Yeah. And if you're out there and you're wanting to start to do some of these things, just remember that a sewing machine is still the best because you can always match, the bobbin thread to the color of the garment so that you can keep the. Probably don't want to do this on an embroidery machine unless you're going to match bobbin thread, because you would see it, right? You'd see the contrasting bobbin on the back sides. But it's just a really cool piece on that side of it. But sidestepping over to the actual the A. Fitch on there, that is a very traditional style of sewing thread. I'd have to say that just by looking at it, I'm not touching it right now, but I'm going to guess it's probably a Tex 40. I can't see if it's a whip or jagged satin. I mean, the difference is, 3 passes per segment, and then you make the entire file a little less, dense. Just make it sparse so that it lays in really nicely. But a jagged satin is also very effective.
And it's so soft.
Yeah.
And how do they get it to be like there's no puckering really, maybe a tiny bit over time from shrinkage, but how do they get it so soft?
Well, that's a great question. It's a very loaded question because there's many things happening to the fabric.
It's a selfish
question. No, it's great. It's great to discuss the ins and outs really of how to produce this. But first off is that sewing thread has a very low shrink rating post laundering. So sewing thread is designed to basically shrink less than the fabric in which it's tending to be, held together. And as a result, when you actually put these many stitches through this fabric, and this is fairly dainty fabric, I would say this is probably around 4.5 ounce or so, right? Something like that, fabric.
Yeah, maybe 5, because I know they do a lot of post-production washes that soften up.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty thin.
So in looking at this piece here, I'd have to say that because of that slight shrink, because the fabric's going to shrink just a tiny bit in the wash, and if those out there didn't know, you may have this preconceived notion that things don't get washed before they go to retail, and it's absolutely not true. Almost everything does to some degree. Very, very few things don't. I think intimates don't. Like anything that could pill, like maybe a flannel or something like that, doesn't. But for the most part, you still have to wash away. If let's say it's a chemical reactive dye shirt, you still gotta wash that fabric and get it out of there. Now, when you go to decorate it, that wash is gonna bring everything down 2 to 3%. Together. And the trick is, and there's a lot of little tricks to doing this, is they're typically using wash away backing when they hoop this. They're also going to use a technique where when you get the finished garments out of the dryer, you don't dry them 100% all the way. You leave them with a little bit of moisture in there, and then you stack them so that it doesn't have a chance to get all the way crispy and 100% dry. It's also, if they're doing the washing and drying in, let's say, a country that's typically extremely humid, let's say Central America or South America, you can pretty much dry them almost all the way, because the humidity outside is always going to keep the shirt from being able to really get super wrinkled. And then there's also the technique of leaving the majority of the garments in the dryer until you're actually ready to stack it, because just the stacking will eliminate those wrinkles to begin with, and you'll never have to worry about, hey, this thing came out of the wash and it's all wrinkled. You're not supposed to leave it in there that long. That's just poor laundering, habits. So, so having said that, I'd have to say that's really how you do it. It's a procedure. And the last 2 or 3 podcasts I've done, Needle Bar a couple times, and our last Dudes of Thread, I feel like I need to do a video just on how to take something like this and push it through its paces, just so they could see, folks at home could see, this is why these techniques are expensive, but this is also why they're just so, they're so desired, because you just, to not have any backing on the shirt, and it just feels soft and smooth and nice, and it's not, it's not, like you said, wrinkly or wavy or densely affected by any, physical property of too many penetrations and too much thread. And it's a really, really interesting technique. But generally, that's how you do it. You just treat it differently than you would, again, just embroider it, trim it, cut off the backing, and put it in a box and ship it. That's typically how that goes in a normal shop.
And not to add even more weight, they added a 2-layer applique to the shirt itself with more embroidery on it. So the base of this is like a cardinal color twill, which is, you can kind of see the fray on it. And then they have a really soft felt on top. And it's really cool. The fray from the bottom is almost curling around the felt layer. And then that tack down stitch is, again, it's so unique. Instead of just having a normal running stitch or a bean stitch, they did this whole, it does look like just kind of a loose zigzag, or loose satin, or however you talk about it. But I mean, that's, now we're with the embroidery stitches, you're looking at almost 3 layers on top of this t-shirt, and it still doesn't ruin the garment. It's unbelievable how, again, it's the execution of a technique for the garment. And it goes back to what we were just talking about of, don't just hit that embroidery on, that specific polo or hoodie. Don't do it all the same. Try to change it up, because each garment should get almost a different application depending on the weight, the fabric, all of the ins and outs of it, because you can really still keep it on brand, but have a diverse look throughout your collection. Yeah,
that is a very good, some really good points in there. One of them is, using organic fibers, organic fabric, is a really staple thing to do to keep the fabric, the entire garment, to drape properly. Anything synthetic, it's not that you can't use it, it's just that organic fibers typically will drape very nicely and play nicely. Now, I know that the felt is not organic. That's going to be probably acrylic, or I doubt that it's wool, but it's most likely acrylic, some sort of poly based.
Yeah, it looks thinner.
And that's important as well. Plus, felt density has a lot to do. You could have a thinner, denser piece of felt, or a thicker, less dense piece of felt, and get 2 completely different, results. But like you said, I can't.
And when you say real quick, sorry, when you say organic, you're not necessarily meaning eco, you're meaning natural.
Correct.
100%
exactly.
Cotton, right? Is that okay? Just
exactly.
Sure.
100% cotton is the best for fray. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, I've tried everything I get my hands on, and I can't get anything to fray like 100% cotton. It just has a really natural property to it where the fibers fall apart. You can kind of speed up that process, obviously, by leaving exposed edges around your applique, but it's a blast to figure out what some of these things are going to do, which is, the art of it all with our, my time at Abercrombie was figuring out ways to make it look like it was falling apart, and then we still tried to come in and repair it later, and then it started falling apart again, and then we tried to repair it again. I mean, it's just try to do all that in one garment with the final, result. So something like this, I can't tell 100%, but something like this, for those thinking about how to actually produce something like this domestically, it's very possible that the top layer and the bottom layer were cut the same. Like, if it was laser cut or die cut, it's very possible that it was cut the same. If the letters on the applique the shapes were actually cut with a die, there would be like zero singeing on the felt. But because felt is a synthetic fiber, if it was laser cut, then the felt would actually be like kind of sealed up and singed on the outsides, meaning that it wouldn't continue to fray near as fast and as quickly, as the twill on top or whatever that fabric is on top. But that's the magic of organic fibers. You put felt on top and let's say twill on the bottom, and that twill's gonna just destroy itself, over time. So then of course not
yeah. So such an awesome piece,
yeah.
man.
Then there's
we're here to inspire and educate as well.
The also worth mentioning is it looks like a multiple pass satin on top, with the winged foot there.
With the foot?
Yeah, it's just it's messy, it's nasty. For the digitizers out there, you can probably see there's a couple of jumps that are in the segments, so you can kind of see where, because the art of embroidery is basically drawing without picking up your pencil. You want to have the least amount of trims, the least amount of connection points, and just want to make that to be one continuous shape, so that it will run the fastest in production. So it's nice how they kind of hid. You can kind of see it now that I pointed it out. They've kind of hidden a few of those things in there to let it run, as fast as possible in production.
But because it's kind of worn in, it could just be, a string just kind of broke loose, from the washing.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really great. One of Amber's pieces, and it's one of my favorite because this was probably the only time in the 14 years of Amber that someone said, we have no budget. Make us the coolest freaking hoodie that you can. And Joe was actually working with the manufacturer that did this at the time. And so we were able to use his skills that he gained from all the Abercrombie days, and then my love for it to make this hoodie. And we actually submitted it to Alternative Apparel for a contest, even though we didn't win. I was a little jaded because I'm like, who's making a better garment than that? They're probably basic screen print, one color anyways. I'll get over it. But yeah, just there's so much going on here, Joe, and that this alternative apparel hoodie that has the stars on it. It wasn't our main one. You'll see the last photo when we show it that has it was just a navy, but so let's kind of just go over, because there's some similarities to that first image, but we can just kind of talk about what we're trying to accomplish with this whole thing. Absolutely.
The first and foremost is, I guess we should probably talk about the screen print, just because I think that alone is its own art. Now,
when we say multimedia, that's what we're meaning: screen print with embroidery or embroidery with something else, just for terminology purposes.
When we would print things like this at Abercrombie, what would seemingly be something simple, let's say something that looks just something like this, the print just looks as one or two colors, it doesn't look like it's much. I mean, I know we did basically a soft hand underbase, and then we came back with a much of a thicker plastisol on top to kind of give it a little bit more like vintage underneath.
In only certain areas that we wanted it to pop.
Correct. And when we would do this, like at Abercrombie, we may have 3, 4, 5 screens trying to accomplish the same thing, because we want various layers. Some layers have much more chino base in them than others. Some layers we even go as far as to put some puff ink in it to get it to stand up a little bit extra, to give it a little bit more texture. So in this case, I think we kept it to 2 colors, just with the super light chino-based underbase that had like the tint of the cream top color that you see there. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to pull as much of the garment color off and into the ink as we could, which really makes it look nice and soft, and it does feel soft as well.
And
then of course we come back
1,000 times, to take on that kind of deterioration of the screen print. Some people have those shirts that crack after a couple prints, but not on purpose.
Yeah.
It's a production flaw.
That's called undercured. And not good planning. And then of course the top color, which is going to have a much more of a heavier plastisol feel to it, but at the same time that's what makes it vintage. I think that it's unfair, as we move into the age of water-based products. Not all regions of the world and the country get to print water-based without fussing. And I know that I live in the Southwest, and that's one of those hot, dry areas that water-based is just something that it takes a while to master. But in this case, having a little bit of plastisol on top is not going to kill you, especially if you use it sparingly. But I know for a fact that the screen mesh that we used for the underlayer, I believe, was a 230. It may have been even a 305, but it was a pretty tight, detailed screen. Yeah. And then, of course, the next one you come over with a couple of hits of a thicker, like probably 2 passes of a thicker ink over the top. And that was about it, really. In fact, I don't think we flashed in between. We let it just kind of mix on press, kind of, happy little tree style, just where it lives now. And that's that, as simple as that. But again, when you touch and you feel it, you really do feel like a nice, luxurious quality to the process. But the other thing too is the pillbox, drawing our attention to the pillbox where we have the SF and the 1.4. When you're trying to design for embroidery over the top of screen print, you definitely want to make sure that you're designing so that when you go to hoop the garment, if the SF14 is a little bit off, a couple millimeters in whichever direction to allow for that human error, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So that's why we didn't try to fit the SF14 specifically inside the pillbox, like if it was designed like that in the first place. So little tricks so that your eye doesn't go directly to that problem or directly to the spot on the shirt that's gonna, isn't that a little crooked or isn't that a little off? So you got to design for that.
Yeah, and I mean, it just helps the production process, go smoother, especially if you're doing high volumes, right? You want to, the longer it's on the press, the longer it takes. And again, someone's hooped 30 hoodies, that 31st, they're tired, man, and it's not going to look right. But a lot of it, what people I think in our industry need to see, it's in the design. You design for the production before it ever even hits that press or that embroidery machine. If you can predict what it's going to do or predict to make it easier for that manufacturing, it's going to come out better. The production team's going to not hate you as much, and everyone will be happy, because again, it wasn't an afterthought. It was thought from the design element to the development all the way to manufacturing. So that's it's purposefully, it's unique on purpose, just for mass manufacturing.
Correct. Yep. Those are some great points there. And is it cream colored felt that we put down on the first layer?
Well, so on the SF14, I believe we used the water soluble felt, right?
Yeah. I was in my head. I was moving on, but you're right.
We'll go right there.
That's
and
something
then
to
wrap
mention.
that up. But I just wanted. I think many people haven't seen this type of process before.
Yeah. So the SF14, there is a layer of wash away felt, that we lay down on the garment first before we do the final sew out, and it basically allows for the stitches to lay on a pillow. It's what can I say, man? It's polyvinyl alcohol that has been put through a needle punch process, so it looks like a 5 or 6 millimeter felt, but it's completely water soluble. Now, I will caution anybody using this.
Yeah.
You need to use thicker thread. You need to adjust your densities so that when you sew it, it doesn't look too dense. Because if you don't, and mark my words, if you don't do this correctly, you will trap all that stuff inside those letters and you will not be able to even wash it out. Oof. So that has to be a nice balance of, did you do this? Or you're going to be hand washing the rest of these garments with a pressure washer on your back patio or something, trying to get it all out of there, because a normal washing machine, it'll just stay trapped inside of there. But that's why you specifically use a thicker thread. Yeah.
So this, and then also, right, the spread of the stitches allows that to release out of it when it's washed.
Yes, correct. And I know it may look sparse. Like if this is a Tex 40, we probably ran the density at like a 0.5 or something like that, where it normally would probably run like at a 0.47, 0.48, something like that. And the reason why I'm mentioning the increase in sparseness is because you know again that garment's going to shrink a little bit after the wash, and we knew we were going to wash these, so we just you can go ahead and account for that. And then of course when it washes up like that, it just looks great, because when it was on the press, it didn't look that dense,
right?
When we actually sewed it out. But yeah, that's a good.
And so the final product is almost like puff embroidery. It has that raised look, but it's so soft. The threads are just locked in place. So, just imagine just pulling out that felt underneath. The loft of those threads are still there, and it just makes it for a really nice, soft piece, but also unique. It gives dimension, and it's, you can't feel it on the inside as well. So we really love that part of it.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So on the applique part of it, we ended up doing, I believe, like a vanilla felt for the base layer, I believe.
Yep.
And on the vanilla felt, one of the things that's a little bit difficult about felt is that anything you put on top of it, it kind of acts like a little bit of like a sponge, almost like a trampoline, meaning that so when you put a second layer on top of felt and you have small shapes, you don't really think of that sponge affecting the how can I describe this? When the needle goes to penetrate through the top layer of applique and into the felt, it starts to lean towards the path of least resistance. And so that's why you'll see some of the letters where the stitching doesn't look like it's going perfectly down the letter, because the letter actually is kind of getting tossed around,
pulled a little bit
due to the fact that it's you'll probably see more of that happening on, let's say, an alternative hoodie than, let's say, maybe an independent hoodie, naturally, just because of the sponginess of that particular knit fabric, the way that they treat it. And that's not talking trash. That's just what I've seen, like in a production environment. I remember Jeremy and I, we should probably do that at some point. The send relief one, because I had pictures of the alternative, and then we did. I don't know if it was Bella or something that we switched to, because they didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, I think it was Bella.
But we switched to it, and then it was like all those production issues that I was concerned about, that we were like, I hope they like it. It just all went away.
Yeah.
And so that's something to be said about properly structured fleece. But the coming back to the Horton here, what I love so much about the efforts of getting that base layer down is so that you can put, if you look at it, there's a layer of looks like navy cotton twill. There's a layer
on top of that,
like on top. Yeah, exactly. And then there's a layer of looks like burgundy or maroon, cotton twill. And then on top of that, you've got...
so it's actually jersey, that top layer.
Oh, is it jersey? Oh, great. Yeah. That's great. And then on top of that, you've got the stitches that are required to hold this mess together. And then you have even more decorated stitches. So you have like a double bean. It could be like a 5-pass bean running around, let's say the W.
Yep.
And then just instead of that, you have like a 2-pass running. That helps just to make it look like it got sewn a couple times at a couple different states of its life. And then you have the repair stitching on top of that. And there's so much going on. And then you have the faux chain stitch on the A for a fill.
Yeah. And,
so
I think a lot of it is like, how can we, authenticity is the key when you're trying to do vintage. Throwing a distress filter on a font is not authentic. While they call it distress, it's if you go to the thrift store and you find some of these shirts that are 20, 30 years old, and you study how the ink is from the crack to, the elimination of it, nothing is uniform. Nothing is perfectly distressed straight to the garment. There's variations. And so we wanted to bring that in, not only with the print, but with the embroidery. And, we just picked 2 letters not to have a third layer. And that's where we put the chain stitches. So there is a lot going on, but I still, when was this, 2014, 10 years, I'm still getting pictures of people wearing the hoodie and, still rocking it because
and getting compliments.
Again, it's timeless.
The other thing too worth mentioning is that we've got, I get questions quite a bit in teaching applique and digitizing, and there's folks out there that are asking some wonderful questions about, what would this particular decoration called, and how would you tack those letters on if you were doing, let's say, this A example here with the chain stitch over the top of this blue twill that's over the top of this piece of felt. And the easy answer here is there's that 3mm rule that I talk about in my classes about, between the tracing show stitch and just inside of that you have the tack down stitch, and as long as you keep that rule for the most part true, it's gonna work no problem. Whatever decoration you intend to put over the top of that is completely chef's choice. Once you get the letter held down, you can do whatever you want to after that. You can put the stitching on the inside like the A, or you can just enhance the tack stitch like the W and the H. You don't need anything super crazy. I'll go into this deeper probably in a different segment, but the areas of, let's say, the W that are distressed, at Abercrombie we would actually go in and make those less passes in those areas to make it look like it had been chiseled away over time. So we would actually drop the passes down in those areas because, quite frankly, because we could. We were. Yep.
You had the volume.
Why not? We're here.
You had
Let's
the
make them
factories.
less.
You had the team. You had the cash. That's all. That sounds amazing, man. Yeah. So I had such a blast working on that. You guys executed it perfectly, and again, it's one of those pieces that I'll have in my closet for a long, long time.
I was just kind of thinking about, like, what's the reprintability of something like that? That's a lot of work.
Yes. So that's a great point. If you think there's going to be future reorders and you want to make sure the felt, all the fabric, all the thread, the garments are all going to be in stock, I wouldn't suggest going this crazy with it.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing that, overseas in a factory that always has those supplies. But that's a great point we knew it was a one-time deal, so that's why we went, to the moon on that one.
Right. Yeah. It's such a great piece. It really does encompass, I don't want to say this the wrong way, a little bit of everything, but it really is a lot of all the right things in all the right places. Almost like when it comes to music, it's all about what notes to not play and when to not play. That makes it so tasteful and, just real, classic, and it lands properly.
Yep. Destroyed and designed on purpose.
Exactly.
Is the thought on that. And I know we had a bunch of other images to show, Joe, and we'll save those maybe for another day, just to let people, chew on just those 2 images that we saw and talk through. But we'll keep bringing that, I think every episode just talking about a couple pieces we see in the marketplace, what's trending modernly and what we found in our archives that that we want to just show people. So.
Absolutely. So one thing too I wanted to do real quick for you is I was actually looking through some of my old samples, and just like yourself, the majority of the closets in my house are my clothes or my samples. And I was running through a section of my back of my closet that had it had something I hadn't seen in a long time, and I thought of you when I saw it, and I was like, he's gathering up such an amazing, especially with like your segment on Picker Loves Prep on the last episode. I was like, man, nobody loves prep that I know more than Jeremy Picker. So I was looking through my closet, like, this is gonna be perfect for him. So I actually have from the development days. I don't remember exactly when I got this, but I think it was sometime around 2005, 2004, 2005, something like that. And this is This is a blank rule hoodie that had been sent to us from one of the factories. We were trying out various hood tapings from.
That's intense.
From that particular factory, and we had a lot of. Let's see if I can get this up in here. But this is a blank hoodie, but you got all the whistles and bells with the taping, really nice cuffs, and the reverse.
Is it the exposed edge?
Exposed
or is it like
edge.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Yeah. So everything was.
That's amazing.
So it's been sitting in my closet for, almost 20 years. So.
Whoa.
I just
looks
never.
brand spanking new.
Yeah, it's pretty much new.
It's amazing.
So, but yeah,
Dude.
I say we take this, and if you would like it, please take it, and maybe we can put some fancy decorations on it, like the Horton or something.
Dude.
Yeah.
Joe, that just made my day, man. I have one rule piece and I can't even fit in it. So this is going to be not only rule, but we'll be able to customize it to whatever we want. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Because that will be a one of one, dude.
Oh, that'd be a one of one
that.
right there. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Happy to.
That's awesome.
I was going to do something with it, and that's what I've been saying for 20 years. So let's put it to some good use.
Well, we will do that. It will be on a future episode for sure.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Thanks,
so,
man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to provide that. So
cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate the thought. It will definitely go to use.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Thank you all for your submissions from our segment from episode 2, Stitch Count Contessa. We got a bunch of submissions on the guess for the amount of stitches in the file. And no one got it exact, but we will announce who the winner is now.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to go into that now. And just real quick, Jeremy, I was actually kind of surprised that some people, like for the first few submission, they guessed like way low. But that just kind of gives you an idea how much people don't quite understand. Even people in our industry that were guessing don't quite understand how many stitches it takes to really pull something off that's that big. I mean, that thing is massive. So what I did hear from Justin, he said that thing was on the machine for almost 3 days. It was like they would come in, turn it on, let it run, and then leave for the day, turn it off, back on, run. It was 3 days of that.
My guess was 8 hours on that, but I was way off. That's insane.
Yeah, so that was massive. Now again, I don't know what speed is it in, and I'm sure that there's some factors in there that will contribute to how long it took to run. But we'll go ahead and roll the winner. So here we go.
You're back with Chain Stitch Chad
and Whip Stitch Willie.
The stitch count for episode 3 was 361,884 stitches. That is crazy. That means
congratulations to Billy Rees and the amazing team at Jab Embroidery in College Station, Texas.
Jab Embroidery is this week's winner with a guess of 420,000 stitches. Let's give him a round of applause.
You're the well-deserved winners of Stitch Count Contessa.
You're the winner of Stitch Count Contessa.
Join us next time on the Dudes of Thread for more prizes. Thank you to everyone who submitted a guess.
All right, we're back, and
Yeah, congratulations.
yes, congratulations. We're gonna reach out to you and get your mailing information so we can send you some fancy stuff.
Yep, hook you up.
Absolutely, and then of course, without further ado, we're gonna show the next piece for the next segment. So let's go ahead and dive right into that.
It's time for Stitch Count Contessa, where we show you the stitch file and you try to guess the stitch count.
So we're back, and I don't know, Jeremy, this one's going to be tough. I feel like this is going to fool some people on how many stitches this one's going to be.
Yeah, if someone gets it right, I'll throw in a $25 Starbucks gift card if they get it exact.
Right, exactly. So that'd be so nice. And then one other thing too is we're still taking submissions for our level up segment. So if you didn't catch our last podcast, we are looking for. You could be a broker, you could be a distributor, you could be a design firm. We're looking for anybody out there who might be having a little bit of trouble with somebody's, let's say, corporate logo. You might feel like your creativity is a little stagnant. We would really like for you to submit. We have a link in the description. There's a form for you to fill out. You can upload a few visual examples of maybe a logo you're having trouble with. We would like to feature your troubles, your logo on the show, and talk to you about what we could do to elevate your logo to the next level.
Yeah. And for us, we only have a certain circle of influence with our customers, but we have unlimited resource of creative ideas when it comes to decorated merch. So we are here to help your customer elevate that. And so, obviously we will keep it private. We'll share what you want us to share. We will never go after them, but we want you to be able to surprise and delight your customers and show them that you're thinking beyond what they're ordering. Instead of being that order taker, just doing what they ask, you're proactively trying to help them make better merch and just diversify. If they've been doing the same left chest logo for 10 years, let's try to make something a little more lifestyle that some of your staff or audience is going to want to wear in a social setting. And so I think that's one of our great skill sets, and we want to pass that on to help you, our audience.
Absolutely. Great points. And I think that we need to always push the concept of this show, which is we're trying to make better apparel merchandise through education, through edifying each other, establishing a community, building that community to be a better community for everyone.
That's right, Joe. And I think that wraps up this episode number 3 of Dudes of Thread. We're so stoked to be able to do this and keep it consistent, no matter how hard it is and no matter how many clients bang on our door is making it so people can rely on us every week.
Absolutely. And so please, if you like the content, please hit subscribe. Let us know that this is what you want to do. The likes and the subscribes at least really helps us understand how this is landing with everyone. If you do have a moment, please also leave some comments, and we would really love to hear from you. The more content you can throw, or content ideas, I should say, you could throw at us, the more we'll listen to that and try to, work that into our formula right now. So again, thank you so much for the support.
Yep. Appreciate you guys. Stitch on.
Yep. Stitch on. Fashion to the people.